Welcome to Life on Life's Terms, episode 32. We're going to be getting into opioid overdose, as today is Overdose Awareness Day, and we're also going to get into Kenny's trip to Toronto. This is your host, Justin, and...
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Kenny.
How's your day going so far?
It's going really good. I'm kind of running on fumes. I got back late last night from the event that I was at in Toronto. Flight didn't get in until about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I had a early wake up because I had to go to an industry presentation at school this morning. And I've already made my volunteer rounds before coming here to do this recording. So I had a busy day so far.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
My day has been okay.
What did you do while I was gone? I missed you.
So what I did this week this is the last week. So it's preparations for executive meetings. So the end of my week, like the end of my months every month is putting together what I've done all week, like all month, and then reporting this to my executive board, basically on not-for-profit that I work with, founder and executive, I guess, at this moment.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. And then doing all the shit that we got to do for this show. There's a lot of things that happen in the background. You guys get audio. We get all the fun.
Yeah, it is fun though.
It is fun.
It is really
I've
fun.
met a lot of interesting people so far. Yeah. Congrats on that episode of Yourself. Just to the listeners, we're not swearing in this episode because this episode could be aired in offices. We are doing some stuff with overdose prevention today, so this episode could be aired in a public space, and so we're trying to keep swearing to a minimal as we usually do.
Not.
Unless we get passionate, and then real fuck talk starts.
Real fun talk. Well, today it's not so fun. It'll be a little bit of a downer, a Debbie Downer. I've had probably 30 friends and acquaintances pass away in the last couple of years due to fentanyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they doing fentanyl itself?
Yes, most of them that I know of anyways.
Okay. Let's back up though. Let's talk about what happened in Toronto.
Okay. Let's do the happy and then the sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so Toronto, it was the Global Youth Service Summit being held by Taking It Global organization. There was 15 nonprofits there, one of which I'm part of, which is Apathy is Boring, which I've mentioned on this show before. But we're all the organizations are part of the Canada Service Corps, and it's all youth-led organizations that empower youth in their communities to take part in different like service activities and engaging youth and fighting against social exclusion of different minorities and stuff like that. It was really cool. I got to make a speech. I was one of the few people there to not just represent the organization that I was with, but also like represent myself, give a story about myself, what brought me where I came from and how I got to where I am now. I also got to plug the radio station to a whole bunch of government officials.
I mean the podcast.
Oh yeah, sorry, this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. This media.
It feels like a radio station though, doesn't it? Kind of
like with the mic in front of me and
the mic, the arms, the board. It does though. It does.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was very empowering. I got to connect with different government officials who were really interested in what we're doing. And a lot of people, they might be interested in having us speak at different young offenders.
That's excellent. Yeah,
institutions and stuff.
I mean, I think that's the value is between, and you and I have discussed this, I think, off record, where we said there's not many people coming from our background that made it. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Either they die or they're incarcerated for life. And in my opinion, being incarcerated for life, you're dead. You know, it's people, Canadians really believe like it's only 25 years in jail. Well, 25 years to life means you're going to go do 25 years and then you're on parole for the rest of your life. You were always going to be in contact with the government officials, right? So it's not, you know, we just don't kill people. That's really what we don't do. But essentially, the person is institutionalized to a point that's just very difficult to deal with real life. I mean, I guess lesser measures, you know, I would rather not die and just be in the system for the rest of my life, I guess. But God willing, that'll never be a part of my story from here on out, right? I mean,
it came close.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, and I think that's that. Like I said, that's the reality. Is the odds are against people to change, and I don't know if it's so much the people who don't want to change as the system has become so difficult to make a change that it almost seems unsurmountable, you know? So yeah, I guess that's kind of where my thoughts are. And I think that, like, even to wrap your mind around this, you and I are up against it in the context that people look at what we supposedly have done, and they're the ones who don't relieve us of that scarlet letter, so to say. And I'm not a person who likes to play the victim, and I'm not playing a victim. All I'm saying is I would like to have an opportunity afforded to me in order to be able to walk back into an institution of some sort in order to say that this is what the hope is if you decide to take it. Because if there's anything that I've learned in recovery, I go and speak at many detox centers today. And I also go and talk at treatment centers today about what it is to get recovered and become a recovered addict. Be somebody who doesn't have to go back to the toil and torture of playing with your life with an overdose situation. Okay, I get to talk about that today. You know what I need to go and talk about? I need to go and talk about the shit that happened to me when I was incarcerated and understanding with those people how difficult it is to come out of that damn hole in order to change your life. It's therapeutic on both sides of the fence. It's therapy for the person who's in the institution, and it shows me of a place that I don't want to go back to. Right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to run through my head exactly what jail was like unless I'm almost commiserating, and I don't want to be commiserating. I want to be able to walk back in that institution, show those people that we all get afforded a break in life. Go take yours. Come and I will show you. We will show you the break in life that you can have. Okay? Because it's different. I mean, we can take as many empowering courses as we want, but it's different when you have a mentor right there over your shoulder saying, oh, this is the situation? Okay, this is how we deal. This is how we deal. Deal this way. What do you have to lose? You lose, I'll pay. I'll pay for it. That's what we can do. But if you don't have that, what's the likelihood that you're going to change? It's very, very difficult. You know, you need that birdie over your shoulder almost, right?
Well, like the feedback that I got at the summit was that, you know, us coming from this background, like then we have instant connection with those people behind bars or the kids that are in young offenders, and they can trust us instead of just being some suit or a doctor or a guard or somebody that they already have authority issues against. Like we meet them on a level playing field, like as an equal, and we can bond with them like they're our little brother or our cousin who is going through the same troubles that we went through before in the past. And
I agree, and that's the other beef that I have with so-called institutions and their what they call protocol rule is that people like you and I who have changed our lives are not even if we had letters behind our names, their security still would not allow us to go and work in a youth correction center to say or to be able to reinforce a change in that regard. because that scarlet letter is there. And pardons do not pardon you from that exclusivity of not being able to participate in that. And I think that's really where the boat is being missed. I mean, like
Absolutely,
I said,
yeah.
we need to be able to go back into those places so that we can see where we don't want to go again. You know what I mean? And that opportunity, it's like I go to a treatment center to go and talk about recovery of 5 years. You think when I go to that recovery center or to that treatment center, I go in there thinking, gee, I really want to come back here. No, I'm going there because I don't ever want to go there again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the recognition in my mind. Thank God I don't have to be here. And I understand why. Like, I congratulate everybody in the room. First thing out of my mouth in my speech. Congratulations for making it here. Who's graduating this weekend? Show me your hands. Because you are the people that I'm willing to sponsor tomorrow. You want me here? Who's coming to your graduation? Nobody? I will. I will be here. You want me here? I'm here. You tell me if you want me here. And I'm here. Where are you going after this place? Because I'll drive you there. I'll take you there. I'm not going to do your work for you, but I'm going to take you there. Right?
Yeah.
That's missed. Who's getting our kids out of I can't even understand this. I know there's a facility in our location for youth, which is called
EYOC.
Well, there's EYOC, but there's another one that I'm not gonna say here because it's bad. They're kids in lockup. I mean, segregation. They're segregated, like they're in lockdown, man.
And they're youth,
Yeah.
like 12 to 18.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're called high risk, right? High risk youth, and they don't call it a lockup. I forget the actual term that they use it, but it's horrible. You know, this is what we're doing to our youth. You're making it worse. You're not making it better. You know, well,
we need the programming, right?
Well, I agree. Sure, I agree that there needs to be programming, but what I more so agree with is that there needs to be almost like a big brother, big sister organization willing to mentor these kids. That's and I've always said that, but the problem is, and I've put this around before, but the problem with it is that
The security barriers?
well, it's not even so much the security barriers, it's the fact that the checks and balances that are in place do not afford one to be able to have to be accommodated in any regard. So it's either you meet it, you fit it, or you don't. And if you don't, you can't participate. And this is an issue. And in my opinion as well, as I also believe we need to start, I mean, rules and programs are considered institution. Okay, that's institutional settings. And I agree that some adults need institutional settings. Agreed, 100%. Youth don't. Youth don't. Institutionalization starts at youth.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have to break the mold in their adult years.
Which is harder.
We need one-on-one with youth through a mentoring capacity.
We need a nationwide organization that is ex-cons and ex-offenders that have turned their lives around and are doing good and have the character reference, and they have a professional CV now saying, you know, this is where I was in the past. This is what I've accomplished since then. I can go back in the institution, and we need an organization of us to unite together and make this happen. I think if there's anybody who's listening from this thing, if I was to throw my 2 cents into any hat, would be this from your Toronto summit. Yeah. My
2 cents would be this: we need to start affording the ability for people to get an actual pardon, and pardons is not just a pardon like, oh, the government of Canada is affording you the ability to say you're okay now. No. It's your record is expunged.
Yeah.
It no longer exists because the hoops that we can place for other ex-convicts to get this expungement is crazy.
Yeah, so like that's the carrot in front of the donkey that we can hang in front of all these convicts' faces to say, you know, by giving back to the community and changing your life around, then you too can have your criminal record expunged and gotten rid of. And now you are a normal human being again.
Yeah.
Now you are no longer stigmatized and marginalized because of a past poor decision.
And I think that's one of the biggest punches in the face. Like, I work with a lot of guys, and I'm a huge proprietor about volunteering, being a part of the community, so on and so forth. You have an amends to make to the community. Okay, I 100% believe that. But you know what the biggest elephant is in the room? You're going to do all of this for your community, and I'm not saying that one should expect gratis back, because we owe a lot. Yeah. But you do this all towards the community, and then what's the barrier for you to go further?
Your criminal record.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So then again, it's smashed in your face. There needs to be a reconciliation between the government of Canada or the province of wherever you may have been charged and the person in order to have this expulsion through expungement. And if that can happen, we're going to see people actually changing. One of the ideas...
that will lower recidivism rates.
So one of the pieces through my not-for-profit that we've actually targeted for recidivism was this. We targeted that none of the ex-convicts know that we have the power for an expungement. So if they don't know, and then all of a sudden that's just the bonus at the end of the day, they don't even realize that that's what they're working for because their motives are just pure, and their intentions are just to embetter themselves, regardless of the community saying, well, you have a record. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of that, they're still doing better tomorrow than what they've done today. Okay. Then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 years, 5 years down the line, they're still continuing in this kind of positivity. Well, let's give them the expungement then. Because I can tell you right now, even in my own case, an expungement wouldn't mean anything to me today. It really wouldn't. I work enough with community that's good enough for me. That's okay for me. The expungement is just basically the cherry on top of the cake. That's all it is. If I were to ever get that today, that's all it would be. It'd be like, oh wow, that's great. It's almost a recognition. Thanks for doing so well, right? And this is how we turn it. Anyways, who did you meet in Toronto?
Well, I met the parliamentary secretary to Trudeau. His name is Peter. I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong because it's French. Shafiq. And Peter.
That's good though.
That was not bad. Right?
Tights carré. Yeah, that's good.
And Peter was a great guy. We had a good talk out in the hallway after I made a speech, and the guy actually gave me a hug. Like, we started talking about. He's like, most importantly, how do your kids like having you around now? And I kind of got all teary-eyed talking about how my kids are happy and now, like, I'm happy that I can be a positive role model for them.
Yeah.
And I got a little teary-eyed. And he just came across, gave me a hug. You know, he didn't even ask for consent. He just gave me a nice big hug.
That's why I have an issue with liberals. They just can't keep that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, but he was a great guy, and you know, I'm going to hold him to what he said. He said, if there's anything you guys need in these nonprofits that you're working with, email me and let me know, because both you and I, for our listeners' sake, we're both involved in separate nonprofits, and we're both do our own thing, like several different things for giving back in the community, right? But he was really interested in hearing about those, and offered to help. I got a cool offer from a fellow with the Duke of Enbridge International Award of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Just a possible mentorship position in regards to going to explain this award to different youth that are in custody in like young offender centers, to explain that they have the possibility to apply and win this award. I don't know all the facts on it right now, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but it's just to show the youth that they're still valued and they still matter, and that there's opportunity for them if they apply themselves. I met several of the Prime Minister's Youth Council.
Oh, yeah.
A number of them were part of different organizations, one of which, her name is Ashley Cummings Rose. She's with Apathy is Boring, and she's also on the board member. She's also a board member with Apathy is Boring. And that's one of the organizations that I'm with. I met the university. I'm the managing director of the University of Waterloo.
Oh yeah.
I met lots of people. It was ridiculous how many people I met that was interested in my story and what I was doing now to give back to the community, and my my intentions and aspirations for perpetuating this service that I'm doing.
Where did you stay?
I stayed at the Weston Harbor Castle.
Okay.
Right in on the water. It was beautiful. It was stunning. As soon as I got there, I was like, there's a ferry, and I just like took the ferry right across the island right away, and then I took like this pirate water taxi on the way back.
Totally saw that in Instagram.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was really cool. Yeah.
I had fun. I made some like lots of good new sweet friends countrywide.
Yeah.
And they're all looking forward to doing work with us.
How did you like CN Tower? Did you get there?
Yes, I went to the CN Tower. I haven't even posted those pictures yet.
Well, they're coming.
They're coming, though. They're coming, yeah. So I went to the CN Tower, took a few shots of myself up there. I also went to the Ripley's Aquarium.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was really cool.
I bet.
Yeah, so like the sharks and the squids. Oh, my favorite was the jellyfish. Yeah, they were sweet.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Did you get to go to Ontario Place?
No, that's pretty much my tourist experience was those. But
well, you obviously got to the boardwalk then, right? If you were out on the water, like because you saw the ferry and stuff to go to Toronto Island, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I went out to Toronto.
So Toronto Island, if you ever get a chance, check out the Carnival.
Yeah,
right?
so I didn't go that far into the island.
Oh man,
but
it's great. I love the village, buddy. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good place. Carnival, when that happens in Toronto, the city is just kicked off, son. It's crazy. Just crazy. Oh yeah, I swore.
Sorry.
Beep it if you have to. Fast forward it. Just play this thing at like 1.4. 1.5.
So like back to like some nitty gritty of this talk. Touch on some
about people dying.
Well, people dying from the opioid epidemic.
Oh Christ! It's. So I think unofficially, I heard a number of 5. Officially, 5 a day. Officially, I'm hearing 1 a day.
So, according to the data reported as of December 11th, 2017, there were 2,861 apparent opioid-related deaths in Canada for 2016.
Yeah, so they're 2 years behind right
It's
there.
2 years behind, and it was almost 3,000 people. And
so let's put this in context. Canada is only 48 million big. Like, you can fit everybody in Canada inside of New York City. Shit, you not. Right? New York State, I think is what it is, right? So when you're looking at that, when you're looking at these numbers, to somebody, it may seem low, but most of our small towns in Canada are 3,000, 4,000 people big, right?
yeah, so and even like from January to June in 2017, there was like a 74% increase in opioid. So like the new facts that are going to be coming out with Statistics Canada are be way higher for overdoses.
Like I was saying, unofficially, I heard 5 a day in the province of Alberta. 1 for sure they're going out and saying publicly right now. So, and I think, so let's talk about fentanyl. You and I both understand what it is to be a drug dealer.
Have you ever done fentanyl?
Nope.
I did it once.
So I was a heroin addict. I liked heroin, but that hadn't happened. But I think, let's just put this in perspective, why people are selling fentanyl. So I'm just going to throw out the business plan so that people can munch on this.
It's way cheaper.
Well, and this, yeah. So and it's also the limited exposure, right? I mean, if you're going to move 20 kilos of heroin, the moment of exposure is pretty big. Because you have 20 kilos that you have to move. And in order to buff 20 kilos, in order for it to be on the street, is like, let's say, for every gram of heroin, maybe let's say 25% of it is pure and the rest is just Tylenol that they throw in there, right? In order to make their money, right? Like the drug dealers out there. So what's happened now is now with fentanyl, you can put 3 granulates, like salt granulates, into a powder, and people are getting high from this. So 1 kilo of fentanyl is yielding as much as 20 to 30 kilos of heroin. Well, why is it in the best interest for a drug dealer to be selling fentanyl? Less exposure. The likelihood of getting caught with 1 kilo of fentanyl next to getting caught with 20 kilos of heroin is less likely. It's much easier to hide a 1 kilogram of fentanyl than it is to hide 20 kilograms of heroin. So why are people selling fentanyl as opposed to heroin? Because it's less likely you're going to get caught, and it has a higher yield of money with a lower amount of exposure towards the law. Really? This is the response from drug dealers because of the laws that are being produced in front of them. I guarantee you,
This is real talk.
You decriminalize right now heroin. Nobody's getting high on fentanyl anymore. Nobody will use it.
Nobody will want it.
They'll take it out. And the reason why they'll take it out is because there's no need to hide from the opiate or the heroin. Now, I'm about to get off my pulpit here, but this is my final point about this. We have created this fentanyl epidemic. If it wasn't for the laws that we had in place, we have to realize that drugs itself and drug dealers itself are just free market capitalists. That's really what they are. I'm telling you, as a person who's made phenomenal amounts of money from selling drugs at one time in my life, we make no money unless we can buff it and it has the least amount of exposure to it. This is a response from people who are businessmen putting this drug out. And the reality is with opium is this: when a person dies from a drug dealer's shit, that's the drugs that everybody wants. Because every addict out there is trying to get as close as they can to death. And this is why we're seeing so many people die from this opiate epidemic. We need to have corrective responses through the medium of protocol, procedure, and new laws. We need to start allowing harm reduction to do its job. I am not a person who agrees that somebody should be using for the rest of their life, but what I do agree with is if you want to use drugs, you do not get social benefits. No longer are we going to endorse your drug use by giving you the works programs or any financial benefit program throughout this country. If I was King Justin, that's what would happen. You would still get your health benefits, so on and so forth. But if you pee dirty, you're not getting your works benefits or your social your welfare, basically. You're not getting that at the end of the month. Instead, you want to get clean and sober? We'll give you as much funding that you need to get clean and sober. You want to steal because you need a warm place to live in the wintertime? You're not going to jail. We're not giving you that. That's not what we're giving you anymore. See, my whole issue with this is we've become enablers. And we will help you to your death to get high by giving you money hand over fist. But the second you want to change your life and you have a criminal scarlet letter on you, we don't allow you to take that off of your chest. The spectrums of the problem are too different. They're too different than what needs to happen. They're polar opposites.
They're two different issues, but they enable each other. Like they make each other worse.
They're intertwined, 100%.
Not only now are you you got to live with being addicted to a substance, but now you're a criminal that's addicted to a substance. So now you're really not getting anything.
And fentanyl is a federal offense, which means you're federally screwed. You get hit with fentanyl, you're doing a minimum mandatory of, I think it's like 3.5 years now, which for possession, like that's possession.
Really?
It's crazy, man. Like, and I agree. I mean, shit, people are dying, you know? Did you, on your machine, happen to pick up the suggestions for not overdosing?
I can pull that up. I just want to stay. What was the number in Canada for 2016?
I think
2,800.
Yeah.
2,800. I think in the States, I'm seeing a number here. I don't know what this is. 80,000 in 2017. There's 80,000 drug overdoses.
And you have to think in the States, that's like 400 million people, right? It's their population.
Yeah, so 72,000 Americans died from drug overdose in 2017. It's a twofold increase in a decade.
That's very comparable when you look at per capita.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at per capita.
Yeah.
And like I said, well, you know the business structure behind drugs. What would you rather move? 40 keys of heroin or 2 keys of fentanyl? And you still have the same financial gain.
Yeah, the one that you need way less work and time and energy to move.
That's right.
Like just being a businessman from a business perspective.
Because let's face it, I'm willing to acknowledge that's where some of my business talent came from. It's supply and management. That's all it is. You know what I mean? And it's just, in my opinion, I think it's ridiculous that we haven't learned anything from the last prohibition. You know, we saw how many people die when alcohol was in prohibition, and then Alcoholics Anonymous started. And really, if you read the beginning chapter of Dr. Silkworth, where the doctor's opinion, he literally says he was a drug and alcohol counselor. He was talking about a morphine epidemic that was happening in the 1920s. So we haven't changed anything. All we've done is we've just classified these drugs as you can't use these ones and you're going to go to jail for using them. It's crazy. What are your thoughts on Suboxone and Methadone?
Oh, so I've seen heroin addicts and opioid addicts just become addicts to Suboxone and Methadone. And they use it because it does get you high. They say, it doesn't have an effect. I've done both of them. They get you high just the same as any other opioid does. And the government gives it to these addicts for free. Yeah. And I've witnessed friends of mine who had to literally argue with their doctors because their doctor says, he goes, "Do you still crave drugs?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course I do. You're giving them to me every day.
Yeah.
I still crave them when I don't have them."
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, if you're still having cravings, I think we need to up your dosage." I've heard that from several people.
Wow.
That they're trying to up the dose of Suboxone and Methadone because the individual is still having cravings.
So
does that make sense to you? Because that never didn't make sense to me either.
Okay, I agree with harm reduction in the context of Suboxone and Methadone. I've worked in detox, but I'm going to be very, very clear in how I believe that Suboxone and Methadone are worked. One thing I will acknowledge at this moment is I am an addict who is recovered today. I am not on any Suboxone, nor am I on Methadone, and I am a heroin user. I like heroin to sleep, and I like cocaine to start, and I like methamphetamine to keep me going. That's literally my drugs were my emotions. That's what kept me alive and doing what I was doing. Okay. And marijuana just kept me calm while I was high on speed. Right. Because I would get very, very volatile and whatever. So now, knowing the knowledge that I have about recovery and working in detox, there's only 2 things that will kill you coming off of them. One is alcohol. Alcohol will kill you if you do not detox in a medical form. The second is opium. Opiates will kill you if you do not detox in a way that doesn't have some sort of medical piece to it. The likelihood of dying from those two substances is highly probable if you do not detox in an appropriate way. When it comes to methadone and Suboxone, I 100% agree with it, provided that doctor and patient are both willing to look at a tapering program. I do not agree that methadone becomes the solution for your life. I have a very good friend of mine who's near and dear to my heart that I met in recovery. I was his sponsor. Now I'm not his sponsor. I was there for when his mother died, a whole bunch of stuff that went through his world. And he wanted to come hiking with me in the back 40 of Jasper, where we're a 140-kilometer hike basically from Jasper to Mount Robson. And the reason why he couldn't come with me, because he couldn't get enough carries to be in the middle of the bush with Suboxone. Because we were going to be in the middle of the bush. And I looked at my friend and I said, are you really free? Because if there's anything I know about my recovery, I'm free. I can walk into a bar as much as I can walk into the middle of the back 40 in the mountains. It doesn't matter where I go. I am not drawn to anything that makes me want to screw up my life today. Okay? That's not a part of my life. And what was clearly defined for him in that moment was he is not free. Mm-hmm. He's still dependent upon something.
On a substance, yeah.
And then he went to the doctor and he asked for a tapering. But even in that, like I said, I agree with Suboxone and methadone just as I agree with the Nicorette patch. And it should, in my opinion, and I am not the authority on drug recovery. I'm not the authority. I'm not a doctor. I'm not any of this. But in my opinion, it should be a step down approach. It should not be an approach where you're allowed to be on these drugs and not the other and not the other drugs. In my opinion, is if you're coming off of illicit drugs
that are dangerous to your health, you may die from the withdrawals.
And I'm going to throw this out there too. If anybody has ever read the book Alcoholics Anonymous, it literally tells you in that book that as an alcoholic, and I can tell you this, as an alcoholic and a drug addict, we should have alcohol in our home. Why? Because if you have a guy in your house all of a sudden who's coming down from alcohol, you can't just cold stop them. They will die. They will literally 100% die. You need to give them a little bit of booze in order to wean them off of where they're coming from. Their liver will shut down, so will their kidneys, and their heart will stop. That's what's going to happen if you don't give them a weaning. You have to do that. This is the only reason why I agree with Suboxone and methadone. I really wish here in Canada that we also had kratom, because kratom is much better than both of those substances together. And it's not as, from what I hear from people, they get high from it. But what I've also come to understand is it's not the same as Oxycontin, methadone, or Suboxone. And eventually it stops working. And when it stops working, you could try to get high from opium after that, and that will stop working as well.
It kind of like cauterizes your opioid receptors?
Basically is what it's like. It just doesn't work anymore, right? And this is why the other thing that I'm starting to see is I'm enveloped in this drug recovery world is this. I am starting to see that Suboxone and methadone is coupled with counseling, which is fantastic, and I fully endorse that. But what it's not coupled with is the question of, do you really want to stop doing drugs? That question's not being asked. Because the people that are going into this thing don't really want to stop. They're looking for an easier, softer way. And an easier, softer way is just going to put you back out there looking for drugs again. You see, if we're going to give this medical attention to people, we should be affording it to people who really want to stop. They're looking for a taper. They don't want to be on drugs for the rest of their life. They're looking for the ability not to have to be chained down to some kind of substance for the rest of their life. And I don't see that. I just don't see that. The system itself is messed up. I'm not saying that we need to chain people up saying you need to quit drugs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you want to get high, go do what you want to do. Salut. Have a great life. But you're not getting dime one of welfare.
Yeah.
You're not getting dime one of housing. If you can afford to do your drugs, keep your job, and have a house, God bless. Have a magnificent life. Go ahead. But what I am saying is those people who want to change, give them every opportunity to change. Don't try to make somebody make a decision when they don't want to be doing that decision. If they don't want your methadone and Suboxone, don't give it to them. This easier, softer way doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And there's a huge thing that I had heard a little while ago. Why is it that you're not giving the hard, and this is like a dick in the face. Really it is. This sucks when you hear this because it's a question that will run through your head every time you look at something. Are you not telling them the hard thing because your emotional stability is so crappy that you don't want to have to deal with crappy feelings because you were honest with somebody? You got to look at that. Am I not being honest with this person in my life because I don't want to feel the emotional turmoil? What the hell is wrong with you? Are you that codependent that you cannot go into that place to be healthy with somebody else? That's crazy. Like I'm not going to tell Johnny that Johnny's an addict because it's just going to be emotional turmoil. I'm not going to kick Johnny out of my house even though I know he's doing dope in my basement because it's going to be emotional turmoil for me. What are you talking about? What's worse, the fact that you didn't say anything or now he's dead in your basement? Which one is worse?
Yeah.
And the fact that you disregarded your integrity for honesty with entirely throughout that portion of your relationship? That's ridiculous. Most people don't like me because I'm honest.
That's why I love you.
And that's the truth. You know, like it's just mind-boggling to me. Like I said, that question's like a dick in the face. No, either I guess some people might like that question and some people don't. And it's one of those questions where it's literally either you're willing to engage that question or you're not willing to engage that question, right? Yeah. What are their suggestions for
well, the overdose drug naloxone?
Yeah. So I'm trained for naloxone, are you?
No, I'm not.
What are you doing tomorrow? You want to get trained? Take you 15 minutes downtown. If not, I'll train you Saturday or next Monday.
Well, Monday's a holiday. Next Monday.
Yeah. Or Tuesday, whatever.
We might be able to squeeze it in tomorrow.
Okay. I'll meet you at ODP.
Whoa, might. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. if you can. So shout out to ODP. That's Opioid Dependency Program. It's an Edmonton-based program where they give Suboxone and Methadone as coupled with drug and alcohol counseling at the same time.
Cool.
So that's rampant here in the Edmonton area. I think it's a model too. Like it's experimental.
Yeah.
I think one of their suggestions is not to use alone. Not to use alone. Make sure you have a naloxone kit.
Don't use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do heroin or opioids or fentanyl.
But see, they're finding fentanyl now in methamphetamine.
I've heard that.
They're finding it in everything, and that's because the labs are the same place. Like.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not scientists who are dusting their crap off afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not talking like Breaking Bad. That's not what kind of scientists these are. You know. So yeah.
I want to give a moment of silence to all of those who we've lost through opioid addiction.
You got it.
Okay, 1 minute. Let's go.
So for all of you out there who have lost people to the opioid crisis, my condolences are with you. I've seen many die in recovery, and I wish that wasn't the fact. And part of my morning ritual is to honor all of those who've given their last breath for me to be able to draw my first sober breath with recognition. And I do that every day. I've had many, many people that I've worked with be affected by this crisis. I think just a couple days ago, I put 6 names on a wall. And those are only 6 names that are representing 60 people that I know over the last 2 years that have died from fentanyl specifically. And my heart goes out to the parents. I understand that it's a hard decision to ask your children to go deal with their addiction on their own. The only suggestion I can give you is participate in things like Mothers Against Opioids or any other advocacy group that's looking to get more services to addicts. Listen to this podcast. You can even reach out to us and ask us where you might be able to participate in these venues. I really believe that your voices need to be heard. The government needs to hear your voices, because focusing on the addict and trying to get them the services that are needed, we're just not getting it to them. And the only way to get them those services is we have to take a drastic approach to the way that we're going to change how we make delivery for these services possible. You may not like my hard tone, potentially conservative view on not giving addicts money, but I can tell you as an addict, the worst thing you could have ever did for me was give me $30 in my active addiction. That was the worst thing you could have ever did. And I think everybody who actually finally just stopped answering the phone in the final days of my active addiction. Without them, I wouldn't be here today. So that's my piece.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man. You know, when family support got cut off, it was a me issue.
Yeah.
Now it was something for me to really sit back and look at my options, where I want my life to go, and how do I climb out of the hole I put myself in, because nobody was reaching down anymore to pull me out.
Yeah.
Just so I can fall down the same hole again. So, you know, for the parents and family members of the suffering addict, I also believe that setting healthy boundaries and not enabling it is a big part to their recovery.
Yeah. I think, and this is another really harsh question to ask yourself, but what has your helping done up to this point? One really needs to ask themselves that. Has your helping really helped the suffering addict in your family get recovered? Because if it hasn't, my advice to you is do the exact opposite. Because the exact opposite is going to yield you the potential for them to go and get recovered.
They need to come to a state of a personal rock bottom. And as long as there is one person in the world that is still breaking their back for them and like bending over backwards, then they're not at rock bottom, because then they still have that one person to manipulate and use. 100%. And even though they're not doing it consciously, like fully consciously, because when you're in chemical dependency like that, you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, and you don't even realize the people you're screwing over and the heads you're stepping on just to like get to your next hit. Like, you just don't realize it.
I think in closing real quick, I will say this. I did not realize the effect of my use on everybody around me. I remember when I was in my use, my thinking was always, I'm only hurting myself. And then I realized the responsibility of what my use was doing to all of those around me. And if you're ever a mother or a wife, and this is the question you ask yourself, why can't they quit for me? That's because they can't even love themselves enough to be able to love you enough to quit the drug that makes them feel love.
Yeah.
And that's a reality.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about putting you before the drug. You're actually asking them to put you before themselves, and they can't even do that for themselves. This is a deficiency of a malice disease, and this disease preys upon low self-esteem. And that's where it's generating from. So if you're a mother or a parent, or like a parent,
A young parent for a new child, teach them self-esteem.
and I think
every way possible.
Yeah, I think that's, and you also have to exhibit it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And also in saying that, for the parents or wives who are with an addict right now, recognize this: they can't love. They're incapable of it. They don't know what it is. They know how to use the word, but they don't know what it is. So, with that, we'll wrap up.
I'd like to thank you all for being here today and taking that moment of silence. But
happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Let's give a shout out to our lawyer Liam Connolly at Connolly Law for all your Canadian law, will estates, and media issues. Google Liam Connolly Law.
And we're looking for a new not-for-profit for our Patreon. I bet you got a couple people.
Those are already all established nonprofits, like doing really, really good. I want to try to find like a newer one that's struggling that we can actually provide value to with a few donations.
Okay.
Right?
They may be coupled with somebody too, though. Let's dive in a little bit. Let's see who we got. But if you, the listeners, have any suggestions for us to take a look at, we would be more than happy to welcome the suggestion from you guys. Anybody else? That's it. All right, you guys have a wonderful Friday, and
have a great long weekend.
Yeah, here in Canada, long weekend. Yeah, I don't think Yankees get it too. Yeah. Have a beautiful long weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah.
Bye for now.